What's up, you guys? I'm Jasper, and this is JJ Vids. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be doing a review on this 2012 Toyota Tacoma extended cab long bed 4x4 truck. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun video. So let's start off by going over some of the facts of the Toyota Tacoma. So this Tacoma in particular is a second generation Tacoma. They made this generation between the model years 2005 and 2015. This particular Tacoma is a 2012, and as you guys can see, this truck is configured in the crew cab long bed variant with four-wheel drive, which is a pretty rare specification to find for these trucks right here. This Toyota is configured with a 4-liter V6 producing about 230 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. And this truck is also configured with a 6-speed automatic transmission. We would have liked to get this truck in a 6-speed manual, but to find a 6-speed manual truck with crew cab, long bed, and four-wheel drive is a really rare order to fulfill. So this is the truck we have right here, and it sits beautifully. And as you guys can see, this truck does maintain a lot of the OEM characteristics of a Toyota TRD truck, but we did do a few things to kind of spruce this truck up a little bit. And we're going to start off by coming right here to the rims, to where we have the 16-inch beadlock TRD rims all the way around on this truck, finished in the gunmetal silver, which contrasts absolutely perfectly with the silver color. This truck looks beautiful with these rims on it. And as you guys can notice, if we step back a little bit, the truck is slightly lifted. It has about a 2-inch lift on it. And the lift kit that we decided to go with is this Icon Vehicle Dynamics Stage 2 suspension kit. And basically what this kit is that Icon makes 3 different levels of lift kits for these Toyota Tacomas right here. This is a Stage 2 kit, which includes the following: this adjustable coilover right here, which you can raise up and down, height, dampening, whatever you want to do. We have this upgraded upper control arm right here, which is much better than the OEM control arm, because the OEM control arms for these trucks are like hollow in between. This right here is really solid metal, which is a lot more durable than what we previously had on this thing. And then coming over here to the rear of the truck, the suspension kit continues with the Icon shock right here in the rear. And then we also have a shock reservoir to basically make it to where we can do a lot of off-roading with this thing, and these shocks won't give out. All the pressure will go into this reservoir as opposed to being, released onto the shock itself. We also got to add an extra leaf spring on right here, so we're able to handle a little bit more weight with this truck now. Just taking one more step back, I mean, the proportions on this truck, in my opinion, are beautiful, considering the fact that this is a long bed crew cab truck. I think that the 2-inch lift and the nice bigger rims and tires really made this truck look beautiful. I just think before, this truck looked a little bit too long and too short in its OEM configuration. So as of right now, this thing is looking really, really beautiful. So another upgrade we did to this truck would be right here, and that is these iron bolt bumpers. And as you can see, these bumpers are solid metal, and the reason why we went with these bumpers on this truck, front and rear, is because we wanted to protect this truck from any sort of collision or mishap on the road. Let's walk back here, and I'm going to show you guys we do have the iron bolt bumper, like I said before, back here, and I really like the way this looks. I just think it fits really well with the truck. It doesn't look over the top, it just looks cool. And coming over here, as you can see, we do have a little bit of a flick right there. And that was an incident we had a few years ago. And let's just say the person who rear-ended this truck, their car wasn't looking too pretty. And that is the damage we inflicted from that incident, which is the reason why we went with the iron bolt bumpers. It protected this truck, and it will continue to protect this truck. But coming onto the side of this truck, another thing you're going to notice is this custom TRD sticker right here. And this is actually a custom sticker. This is a Toyota Racing Development Sierra Nevada Edition sticker. We actually had this made. We had the California map put in with the bear, the compass, and the mountains. I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks really, really nice on this truck. And this is definitely something that no other Tacoma has. We also threw a snug top camper shell on this truck, which was a really great addition to this truck because I think it really contributes to the overall body lines of this truck really well. In addition, they did a perfect job to paint matching the camper shell to the actual body color of the truck. I mean, if you look closely, they nailed it. It's spot on. But now taking a look at the rear of this truck, this does open up, so the glass does fold up like this, and then the tailgate folds down like this. And as you can see, this truck has a lot of room in the back. I mean, this is a 6-foot bed, and I'm 6 foot tall. And watch this. I'm going to actually come all the way back here, and I can fully, extendedly lay down in this truck. As you can see, I'm laying right here. And if you look over here, my feet are not even sticking out of the truck at all. I am fully extendedly laying in the back of this truck right here. And I think that this wouldn't be possible if this was a short bed Tacoma, because that bed is just too short for a long guy like me to sleep in here. I mean, you could full-blown camp and use the full capabilities of this. This is a real truck right here. Closing this back up right here, I'm going to go ahead and take you guys back to the front of this truck and into the interior, where this truck is really optioned with all the options you would want and all the options you wouldn't want for a Tacoma like this. What do I mean? I'm going to show you right here. So let's open up the door. As you guys can see, this truck does have optional powered windows, but doesn't have an optional sunroof. This truck does have optional 4-wheel drive, but it didn't come with the optional upgraded sound system from the factory. So the reason why we chose a truck that had this type of specification is because, come on, who wants to sit there all day and crank up the manual windows? I mean, that's lame. So we obviously got the powered windows in this thing. We didn't end up getting the powered sunroof though, because we bought this truck with the intention of owning it for a lifetime. And in 20, 30 years from now, the sunroof is just going to be another thing to break on this. And we didn't want to have that, so we opted that out. As for the 4-wheel drive, I mean, let's just take a step back. I mean, this is a Toyota Tacoma. This is a truck. This thing is meant to do truck-like things, and you can't get a truck like this without 4-wheel drive, which is why we obviously had to get the 4-wheel drive. And finally, we didn't go with the upgraded sound system from the factory, the upgraded JBL sound system from the factory. And there's a very important reason for this. So when we bought this truck, we knew that we were going to do an aftermarket sound system in this truck. And when you have a fully loaded factory sound system in a truck like this, and you go to install an aftermarket sound system in, it's going to cost you a lot more money and a lot more effort to get that upgraded sound system out and then adapt a new aftermarket sound system in. So it's always better when you upgrade the sound system in your car to have a lowly spec'd sound system. That way it's going to be a lot easier to add your aftermarket sound system in. And that's what we did with this truck. We have the full Alpine sound system. So we have the Alpine head unit, Apple CarPlay head unit, Alpine Type S speakers all the way around, front and rear doors, and then we have a little Diamond Audio subwoofer behind the seat right there. It sounds really good, and it was definitely the right way to go with speccing this truck right here. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to step into the back of this thing to where, you know, this is where it gets kind of cool, because this is a crew cab, and a lot of these Tacomas are not crew cabs. So I'm going to sit down right here, and as you can see, I mean, I'm sitting in this thing, I'm 6 foot tall, and the seat's just back to where it would normally be. And I have pretty adequate leg room. I mean, it could be moved up a little bit. I think the seat's a little bit far back, but you can full-blown comfortably sit in this. I mean, as you can see, I still have headroom in this thing, and you know, you could sit in this truck for hours on end and go on a long road trip with 4 people and be comfortable in this thing. But looking at the truck on the interior, I mean, this thing has cup holders for days. I mean, 2 cup holders in each door, 4 doors, 8 cup holders, plus 2 in the front, and then 2 right here. This thing has 12 cup holders, so meant for an American family. It's great. But just taking a look at, you know, the general interior of this truck, you know, spec'd in the gray and black interior. I mean, this truck really contrasts great from the inside to the outside, considering the fact that we have a gray interior on the silver exterior. I mean, it's a really nice spec, and I think this truck is going to age great. Being in the driver's seat of the Toyota Tacoma, I'm going to show you some of the instruments we have up here as being the driver. So just taking a look around, everything's buttons. Everything is something that you can physically touch. It's not screens, it's not electronic like all these newer cars are. And you know, this really carries on throughout the whole interior of this thing. But let's take a look at the climate controls, because these are all switches, and you know, this is the way we wanted it, because we're planning on owning this truck for the next 30 to 40 years, and all these little switches and stuff, these are all switches that'll last that length of time. You know, if it's going to be all electric, all that stuff's going to break eventually, which is why this truck is so amazing and so analog. And in my opinion, this is the last of its kind. I mean, nowadays all the new trucks are going screens, computers, nanny assists, and now really this Toyota Tacoma is one of the last bastions of analog trucks. But taking a closer look, we do have auxiliary ports right here. So if you want to plug in your USB or whatever, we even have a USB port right here. We have the bass knob for the subwoofer, four-wheel drive, as I previously stated. We have a lot of great options on the steering wheel right here. It's not over clustered like a lot of these steering wheels are. This steering wheel, it only has 4 different options. I mean, you have volume, you have changing the songs, you have picking up and putting down the phone, and then you have changing the modes, which basically changes the mode up here to see your gas mileage and stuff like that. I really wouldn't even consider this a mode, because that just turns on Siri with the aftermarket sound system. But it's super duper simple. This is a truck to where you can just hop in and drive and know everything, because it's so simple and so well developed. But taking a look at the side of this thing, we have a lot of buttons right here. I mean, most of these buttons are for auxiliary lights. We did add auxiliary lights in our iron bowl bumpers in the front and rear, which is what this is for. But there are a lot of extra blank buttons for a lot more lights to be installed. So Toyota knew from the factory that people were going to add aftermarket stuff on this, and it's cool to see that they put the blank buttons here to make it possible to integrate these buttons in a, you know, in a factory format, which is really great. But I'm going to hop out of this truck right here. We're just going to take one more look at this thing. I mean, this is a 2012 Toyota Tacoma, and I think that the proportions on this thing, considering that the lift we did, the tires we did, the crew cab, long bed, silver, camper shell, you know, you name it, I think everything we did to this truck, it just made this truck flow really nicely. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this thing for a drive on-road and off-road to show you both the 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive capabilities of this truck. So stay tuned, it'll be a lot of fun. So driving the Tacoma, to start off with, I mean, I've driven multiple different Tacomas before. These cars generally ride really nice, but this car in particular, you know, with the Icon suspension on it, rides really, really smooth. And I definitely feel like the tires also have something to do with how cush this thing rides. It's a great driving car, you know, just in a straight line, but turning the wheel, it's you know, it's a truck, so it's going to be a little bit vague, but it's not vague like a lot of these older American trucks, to where if you go over a bump, you get like that death wobble thing. This truck, it's you know, it's precise enough to the point to where it doesn't feel dangerous or anything like that, but it's by no means a really well handling car. But giving it a little bit of power getting onto the freeway right here, definitely has really good power for what this truck is and being a V6. I mean, we got these big bumpers front and rear, which probably add like 600-700 pounds to the truck. Doesn't help the gas mileage either, but this thing still gets up and goes to get onto the highway. It's no slouch by any means. I mean, we could get up onto the highway, no problemo. I really like the fact that this truck has the 4-liter motor in it. Not all the Tacomas from this era came with the 4-liter. Some of these Tacomas came with the 2.7-liter inline 4-cylinder. This one does have the bigger motor, the V6, and this 4-liter motor, it's deep, it's throaty, and it has really good low-end power getting onto the highway. The newer generation Tacoma, the Generation 3 Tacomas, got rid of the 4-liter for emission reasons, and they got a 3.5-liter V6, which was, you know, smaller. And I just feel like I've driven the newer generation Tacomas, and they just don't feel like they have the power that this Tacoma has. And, you know, considering, like I said before, this car has a lot of extra weight on it, the motor really does a lot in terms of moving this car from point A to point B. the transmission also shifts very smoothly as well. It's not clunky or anything like that. You can barely even tell when this thing shifts in the gear. All right, so let's take this off-roading. We're going to hit this little guy right here, but we're going to do it in two-wheel drive and see how that works out. Let's see what happens here. Like nothing. That was cool. Very nice. So we got this right in front of us right here. I'm going to try doing this in two-wheel drive too. I mean, this is going to be impressive if I can do this in two-wheel drive. And we did. We could do it. We can do it. And the traction control is really kicking in to help us out right now. I mean, I have my foot on the gas and I can feel, you know, both of the wheels in the back trying to, you know, catch the traction, but it's considering that we haven't even put this thing into four-wheel drive yet, this is great. This is doing really good. All right, so we're about to hit a little bit more of an advanced trail, so now it's time to put this thing into 4 high. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna put this in the park right here, and then we're gonna basically flick this right into 4 high. You're gonna hear a little click, and then you're gonna get this little notification telling you that your four-wheel drive is on. And now, when you put it into drive, this will go solid, and that means you're in four-wheel drive. So let's see what happens. All right. Heading on down this hill right now. This is a little bit more steep than the first one, which is definitely the reason why we put it in the four-wheel drive here. But, you know, so far so good. We're just taking it slow and steady. But, you know, even going downhill, this is really loose tracking right here. And the truck isn't, you know, losing grip or anything. I think it definitely has a big deal to do with the Toyota off-road tires on this. The treading on this thing is fantastic. We just had a little dip back there, but I mean, we're still holding great considering the fact that how steep this is and how loose the terrain is. So we got a little bit of a scoop coming down right here. Let's see how good the approach angle on this thing is. Oh yeah, pretty good. It's doing well. And here we go. Nice. All right, let's go back up the hill. We're still in four-wheel drive. So this is probably the steepest part of the hill right here. All right, you guys, I think that's a pretty good place to leave off today's video. Not only I was able to show you guys a pretty comprehensive review of the Toyota Tacoma inside and out, but I also got to perform this truck on-road and off-road in two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. And let me tell you, this truck sure does know how to serve its intended purpose. With that being said, please be sure to give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Cheers.